Oh, hello everyone. So I wanted to show off this new tool that I've been developing. It's just really a tool that I've been creating for myself. So if you go to my website, levidsmith.com, if you look at downloads, you can see I've got them numbered here. But yeah, 84 games. They're all not the best games, but I claim them all to be games. But yeah, if you click on Unity, I have quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 54, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 59 Unity games. So every time a new version of Unity is released, I have to go through here and update all of these. Or at least I try to keep them updated. But it's almost impossible for me to keep track of which ones have been updated and things like that. So I started working on this little Ruby script. Started out as just a Unity version checker. But I've improved it quite a bit over the past few days. But it basically goes through a given directory and looks through all the subdirectories to see if they're Unity projects. And if they are, then they're going to check some of the properties, configuration files to see if it's using the latest version of Unity. Now, the new Unity uses a new form. And so this is the old one. It had this Unity version in tags in the editor file. The new version of Unity, like since 2018.1 or something, it has an actual file, project settings, project version.txt. And in it, it has a line called mEditor version. So that's what tells you the Unity version. So basically, it's going to loop through all those. I just finished adding like a check for the current Unity version. So before I had to kind of eyeball to see if it was using the correct version, but now it actually does compare between the value that's in this editor version gets stored into the stir version variable. So if the current version equals that version, it's going to say okay. If not, it's going to say not current version. Now, this is dependent on me or whoever's using the program to keep that version number updated to the current version. Be nice if that was dynamically populated. And it also doesn't check if the version is ahead of what is defined as the current version. That's something else that could be added, but I'm not too worried about it right now. So here it is right here. So last night I worked on a GUI interface for this. So basically, I originally had this where it would do all these put statements, so it would just display it to the console. So I changed all those so it actually stores the results in this result variable. Then at the end, we're just going to return that result string. So last night I went in and created this Unity version GUI using GTK3, which is really nice for doing. This is a lot better than TK or whatever that comes with Ruby. All you have to do is pretty simple. You just do gem install GTK3. Successfully installed GTK3. Parsing. So I guess it just installed it again. So yeah, that's all you need to do to be able to use this GTK3. There is documentation for this. Yeah, this GTK plus 3 reference manual is pretty good. Looks like the latest version is 3.24.0. And so like the basic window, you got a GTK window. Click on that. That's going to give you all of the methods. And down here you got all the properties. So it's a pretty nice little reference. The only downside to this is if you go into Ruby, Ruby, you're going to use GTK : window new, where the actual name of it is GTK window. So it's a little bit different, but once you get used to the differences in the naming format, it's pretty easy. Sometimes I have to guess a little bit to figure out the name of the equivalent GTK object or class in Ruby. Now, I haven't found specific GTK3 API documentation specifically for Ruby using the Ruby format. I found some examples, and that's the way I was able to figure it out. So it's like window get size request, window set border width. Okay, so apparently the GTK window inherits from GTK widget. And so do set size request. So there's the function right here. Oops. GTK widget. So basically, you have to subtract off the GTK and the class name. And that gives you the method name in Ruby. So there it is right there. GTK get set size request. So basically just do Windows set size request. Yeah, so here's the hierarchy right here. For window, you just click object hierarchy up here. You can see everything that it inherits from. So you can see here's the GTK container set border width. So as before, you just take off the GTK and container since that's like the class name, and that just gives you window set border width. So it's a little bit tricky to figure out the naming. But yeah, so I'm using this grid layout. It's kind of like a grid layout in Java. I'm keeping track of the row in the grid and the result panel. So yeah, this is what it looks like right here. Just press check, then it'll go through and check all your game projects. So I've already fixed a lot of these. So my current version of Unity is 2018.2.6F1. So I've already fixed most of these. A lot of them that are pretty easy fixes, just opening up the game in Unity. And sometimes you have to move something in the game world to get the change to update that configuration file to use the latest version. Sometimes I have some games with classes. I think one was actually called Grid, which wasn't a reserved like class name before when I developed the game like in 2013, but now it is actually a part of the Unity API. So I have to change all those to like my grid and refactor it and clear it and recompile, rebuild. That seems to fix those errors. And then you have to rename the actual script. So I've come across that problem a couple of times. The other common problem is the Unity or the Playmaker stuff. Because it seems like every time a new version of Unity is released, it always seems to break Playmaker. There's always something, like the last time or time before, it was a folder called procedural materials, and now no procedural materials are no longer supported in Unity, so I have to update all the Playmakers that I have. This time it was something with networking. Some networking is no longer supported in Unity, so that broke all the Playmakers. So I'm getting to the point I do not want to use Playmaker at all, just because you have to update all your Playmakers every time that a new Unity comes out. It's pretty frustrating. Getting down here, you can see where I'm currently at. I'm currently around the M's. In the latest version of Unity, it no longer uses this Unity Package Manager. So I made a note, delete the Unity Package Manager directory. after upgrading to Unity 2018.2. They will actually tell you to do this when you upgrade the package, but it's easy to forget. So this is just another double check. It sees if that directory exists and lets you know. I mean, I could just have it go ahead and delete it for you, but I want to make sure that you've actually updated your game before it actually deletes it. Here's some 2017.3s. It'll just say, I just added this where it'll say not current version. Let you know you need to go in and update these. Here's one that I haven't worked on in a long time, Resistor Gold. It's actually running Unity version 5.3.1. So that was using the old editor configuration file. So it just kind of lets you know that it's an older project and it has to do the old check for the version format, not the new check using the new configuration file. But yeah, it's just a nice little script to let you know what projects are out of date. Here's like a Unity game launcher that is still running Unity 5. A lot of them I recompiled last year. I'm thinking it would be nice if I could just script updating Unity. That would be the nice thing to do. I think there is a programmatic way where you can just like open up Unity, but I don't know. Right now, I'm actually opening up each of these myself. I go in just in case there is like an issue with class names now conflicting and things like that. I'd rather just make those edits myself. And usually it's pretty fast. The only downside is when you upgrade the version of Unity for each of these, there's a whole lot more stuff in Unity now. Like the HoloLens stuff that I never even use, but it takes like a minute to load all that stuff into your project, which is kind of frustrating. But yeah, looking at the code, so this is just like a neat little tutorial, or I don't know, refresh myself. I haven't done a lot in GTK. I've done a little bit in TK a long time ago, but it wasn't my favorite one. But GTK seems pretty good so far. But basically these labels are like a label in Java. It's just static text. You might be able to actually change that. But it's not like a text field. You might be able to programmatically change it, but it's not intended for keyboard input. So I just attached these to the grid. An entry is basically a text field. And so I got text field for the projects directory and the version number. Got a couple of buttons here. The one that actually runs to check, that executes the code. And that's something else that I forgot to mention. If you want to include, so this is like the old school, or the old way, the command line way, CLI interface. So you can actually call display projects and pass this in, and it will work fine. You just need to print out the result. You just need to do a puts when you call display projects there. To display it out to the command line. But to include all that, you got to do a require relative. I think that's new. I think you used to be able to do, there's a require and an include, I believe, and there's slight differences. Like include is more for classes and stuff, which I don't know all the details on that. But basically, you just give it the file name. I don't think you put .rb at the end of it, just the file name without extension. So that will basically suck in everything in this core program and basically virtually just paste it right here. You do have to watch out if you have like a button right here, and it may be a bit better to do this with classes and stuff. I'm basically just have this as a script. But if you have a button and it's referring to something lower in the script, then you're going to have problems. So it's best to declare all, especially if your button's at the end, declare your text fields up at the top. That way, if it needs to use the value of a text field, like I'm grabbing the project directory and the current Unity version out of that text field, If those haven't been defined yet, then it'll throw errors. So yeah, that's a button that runs that call from my core script. And then I just basically have a quit button. I think the X works too up here, but I just went ahead and put a quit as well. That just calls GTK main quit. And then I had a scroll window. I basically just grabbed this code and modified it for my needs. But you basically give the scroll window width and a height. And I figured out how to make the scroll bars always display, or the vertical scroll bar always display. It's still kind of hard to see. I was hoping it would just like leave it up visibly the whole time. It still goes away, even if you have vertical V scroll bar policy set to GTK policy type always. It still hides, but it's just if you probably can actually delete this. So if you go through here and you delete all the text, then it's still going to show the scroll bar, which I don't know. But you can always just press check again. One issue that I had, and I read a lot of technical posts about this on question and answer forums, but they say if you do a loop through, like right here where I'm doing for each of these files, configuration files, I'm going through and checking the version, checking if that line has Unity version in it. They said if you just do a file open and iterate over that, it will do an automatic close. It really doesn't. It still doesn't remove the lock, because I had an issue with running this program. Then when I opened Unity to make the change, it couldn't write to that file because this script still had a lock on it. Some people say if you do this, it does an implicit close, but I don't think it does, because I went in there and I modified the file myself, and it said, "Hey, a process has a lock on this file." So what you basically got to do is what I do. So here was the original. I just did a file open. This will not close the file, or it won't release the lock, at least in Windows. So if you actually declare the file into a variable and you explicitly say fclose at the end, name of your file variable, and close it, then it will actually release the lock on it. But yeah, that's basically the scrolling area. And then I add that scroll window. You add the text field. Now, the thing that I want to do with this in the future is not to just have a text box, but maybe labels, or I don't know how to do it. But I need like a customizable text widget, like a rich text widget. And I would like to have it where, hey, if this isn't the current version, display this in red or something like that. A couple other things. I have some scripts that will go through there and generate batch files for compiling and uploading to itch and things like that. I would like to include all that in here. That would be nice. The one thing that I really need is a one button make web builds of all my games. That's what I'm really after here, because it takes so much time going through 50 games or whatever, and manually 59 games, and manually opening each one up and building each one, and doing the change project type to WebGL and all that. It just takes way too long. So if I just had one thing that I could build all my games, that would be terrific. And I do have some code already. It's all in my Unity helper, which is on my Bitbucket. It's a public repository, so anybody can download from it. But I have build and upload scripts, which is also in Ruby. Oh yeah, here's build all template. So basically I have this template, so it will make Windows batch scripts for a project and then fill in these values for that project. Then it will put this into the folder of the Unity project, so you can have a batch file that automatically gets generated, and you double click that and it builds it for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So basically it reads the project name and the itch ID, what itch calls it, as command line parameters. Then it will come through here and build those files. It will replace those placeholders with the values that you pass in. And then it will build the batch files for you to build all and push all. So it puts those into the out folder. Then it will move it into the appropriate project directory. So I kind of want to combine this with this new GUI that I've made. So I can just have one button, or maybe have it where all the projects are listed on one side and have check boxes next to them, and say check them all, check one, check some, then say build all for Windows, build all for Linux, build all for WebGL, build all for everything. That would be really nice, just to keep everything updated and nice. Because the one issue I found, if you let your projects get out of date, then it can be a real pain to have to update them later, just because of the way things change. One big thing that's going to hit me is when they completely remove GUI text and all the GUI stuff. I know I have tons of projects that use the old GUI, so that's going to be like probably a month. I'll have to take off a month from work just to work on removing all GUI text and changing them to Unity UIs, the UI interface. I really dread doing that, but I think the games will look better once I make that change. Yeah, so that's basically it. Like I said before, it's on my Bitbucket. Bitbucket GawTech Grad. Yeah, so I have a couple of public projects. Unity Helper download repository. Yeah, I'm not going to, I expect anybody that wants to use this knows a little bit about programming and how to run programs. So I'm not going to do an installer or a tutorial on installing this. It's just download it and use it if you want to use it. If you don't know how to use it, then you've got some learning to do. But yeah, there's the Ruby. And you just down Ruby, I think it's rubylang.org. Then install the gem. Install the GTK gem if you're using that graphical interface. That's all there is to it. If you can't do that, then I can't help you really. Same for my time-lapse maker. I want to do a graphical interface for the time-lapse maker now. Now that I'm starting to learn GTK a little bit better, I think it will really help for that. And I know people are confused with the time-lapse maker. I wrote a README install for that, so if you can't read the README, I can't help you. The README is there. I can't make it any plainer than that. It's right there. It's actually on my GitHub GawTech Grad. Yeah, so for my time-lapse maker, people have been saying, how do you run this? It's all right here. And here's the required software. So I can't make it any simpler than this. I mean, I can do a GUI interface, which may help, but yeah, I don't have all the time in the world anymore. If I was still a young high school student where I had an entire summer to do anything, then I would have time to do this. But I haven't had any time really to make games anymore. All my time is being devoted to recompiling old games. I'm spending more time recompiling old stuff and getting my old stuff to work than I am actually making games now, which is a little bit frustrating. But anyway, that's it. Yeah, check out my stuff if you want to use it. If you don't, or if you think it sucks, that's fine with me too. Just don't use it. So yeah, I think it's a pretty cool tool, and I'll probably be adding more to it soon. Thanks everyone for watching.